Greetings. Thank you for participating in this presentation. You will learn about potential FEMA reimbursements to the Great Lakes Water Authority. FEMA is the federal emergency management agency, and this reimbursement grant pertains to purchases related to the COVID-19 pandemic. On March 13, 2020, the President declared the ongoing coronavirus disease, also known as COVID-19, of sufficient severity and magnitude to warrant an emergency declaration. Therefore, eligible emergency protective measures taken to respond to the COVID-19 emergency may be reimbursed by FEMA. GLWA has been approved as a subrecipient of the state of Michigan to receive funding under this grant. Purchases must be considered eligible according to the FEMA guidelines. After FEMA and state approval of our applications for funds, GLWA stands to receive 75% reimbursement of eligible expenses. This is a GLWA-wide effort to ensure the crucial funding that GLWA is entitled to under the FEMA reimbursement grant. The purpose of this presentation is to provide information to understand our internal process for documenting COVID purchases and learning what is eligible and what is not eligible. Dana is coordinating our reimbursement efforts. If you have questions after participating in this presentation, please contact Dana Bearer. Her contact information is on the last slide. The Financial Services area issued a total of 4 COVID-19 communications on April 7, 2020. They are FSA 1 through FSA 4 and can be found on GLWA's One Water Connect site. Click on GLWA COVID-19 information and then scroll down to Coronavirus COVID-19 FEMA reimbursement. A link to each of these FSA communications is provided in the comment area below the video. FSA 1 is an internal memo explaining what FEMA is, the President's Emergency Declaration, the impact on GLWA, and the fact that GLWA can request reimbursement from FEMA for COVID-related expenses. In addition, the communication discusses our internal business process of FEMA-eligible purchases. FSA 2 provides guidance on how to properly document in Oracle's WAM software. This pertains to requisitions for goods and services related to COVID-19. FSA 3 explains how to properly document employee reimbursements related to COVID-19. FSA 4 provides guidance on how to properly document procurement card purchases related to COVID-19. All of the information in FSA 1 through FSA 4 is still relevant. We may expound on what we knew last April as well as provide additional eligibility information. Compliance is the key to ensuring that GLWA receives all funding for which we are entitled. The next several slides will explain our internal process to achieve successful compliance with FEMA regulations. It must be noted that FEMA changed the eligibility of some items in January 2021. GLWA will continue to follow the procedures in this presentation so we may continue to keep track of COVID-19 expenses. The documentation of COVID-19 eligible purchases begins with the purchase requisition. The required information allows a smooth process from requisition to purchase order, to invoice, to payment, and then request for reimbursement from FEMA. What is an eligible COVID-19 purchase? In order for a purchase to be eligible for a FEMA reimbursement, the work, goods or services provided must be related to GLWA's implementation of emergency protective measures. Examples of eligible work, goods, and services are provided later in this presentation. In addition, ineligible items are also listed separately. If you aren't sure about eligibility, either error on the side of eligibility or contact Dana and ask her. Documentation is key to GLWA receiving reimbursement. As much information as can be provided related to the eligible items not only avoids questions but helps with our reimbursement request. Another important reminder is that COVID purchases and non-COVID purchases cannot be on the same purchase requisition. If you believe a purchase is COVID-related, type COVID-19 in the description box. You will see an example illustrated on the next slide. Once COVID-19 has been typed in the description box, only COVID-related purchases may be requested on the requisition. Finally, the federal government has its own procurement rules. But they also indicate that we must follow our own procedures as well. Therefore, all purchases must follow GLWA's procurement policy. A link to the procurement policy is provided in the comment area below the video. We discussed labeling all COVID-related purchases on the requisition in the WEM system. This is accomplished by typing COVID-19 in the description box on the requisition form. Once COVID-19 is typed in this box, only COVID-related purchases are allowed to be purchased using this particular requisition. One cannot mix COVID and non-COVID purchases on the same requisition. Note that the item description is also typed next to COVID-19. As we just discussed, the purchase requisition documentation is important to the FEMA reimbursement process. Equally important is the payment process. In order to submit for reimbursement, the invoices must have been paid by GLWA. Therefore, invoices for the COVID-eligible items must be received, reviewed, and approved as soon as possible. As you purchase COVID-related items, inform the vendor to send their invoice just as soon as GLWA has received the goods or services. Some vendors do not always invoice in a timely manner. You may have to remind them. Ask them to send invoices to accountspayable@glwater.org. In addition, ask the vendor to label their invoice COVID-19. These procedures assist with submitting our request for reimbursement quicker and passing federal and/or state audits. As with any invoice, the relevant purchase order must be on the invoice. We may do business with a particular vendor that has multiple outstanding purchase orders. Having the correct PO on each invoice is vital in paying a vendor in a timely manner. Note that payment for COVID-related expenses should be separate from non-COVID expenses. Procurement cards, also known as PCards, have been a useful tool to purchase emergency items related to COVID-19. It is important to point out that the GLWA PCard policy must be followed just like any other PCard purchase. This includes having a receipt for your purchase and submitting that receipt to Treasury. A link to GLWA's PCard policy is located in the comment area below the video. In addition, COVID-19 must be on the receipt as this example illustrates. Writing COVID-19 in red is acceptable. It does not have to be a stamp, as this example suggests. In addition to having COVID-19 on your receipt, it is equally important to indicate a COVID-19 related purchase in the line description in Smart Data. The details of the purchase must also be documented. This example shows that thermometers were purchased. If other COVID-related items were purchased, they should be itemized as well. These next 3 slides provide examples of FEMA-eligible items for potential reimbursement. All of these examples are current, but the list could be amended if FEMA sends us changes. We will do our best to keep our GLWA team members updated. A major eligibility category is personal protective equipment or PPE. In order for a purchase to be eligible for a FEMA reimbursement, the work, goods or services provided must be related to GLWA's implementation of emergency protective measures. If PPE was used in the course of normal operations, before COVID, that particular PPE will not be eligible for FEMA reimbursement. Note that N95 masks are eligible, but KN95 masks are not eligible. Other major categories of eligible items include disinfectant supplies, thermometers, and tent rental for COVID health screening. Examples of disinfectant supplies include disinfectant cleaners and soap. They must say disinfectant on the cleaners and soap. If these types of cleaning products were used in the normal course of operations before COVID, they will not be eligible. However, if we are purchasing additional supplies because of COVID, that information must be documented because they just may be eligible. Thermometers are eligible because their use is directly related to our emergency protective measures. Tents that are rented to conduct health screenings are eligible. If the tents are used for any other purpose, they are no longer considered eligible. Supplies for the tents, such as generators, directional signage and propane are also eligible. GLWA has a couple of contracts that are eligible for FEMA reimbursement. One of the contracts is for health screening services at each of our facilities, which includes taking temperatures of every person before they are allowed entry. Another eligible contract is our cleaning contract. Amendments were approved to the original regular contract, specifically for disinfecting GLWA facilities due to COVID. Note that we must distinguish between disinfecting and cleaning facilities on the purchase orders. We will be reimbursed for disinfecting, but not for deep cleaning or regular cleaning. Effective September 15, 2020, a new category of eligible items has been added by FEMA. This new category is facility modifications. This means that any modifications made to protect the health and safety of our team members may be eligible. One example is plexiglass barriers. The barrier, as well as any associated contractor cost, is eligible. At first glance, items or services may appear to be eligible, but they are not. We are continuing to learn what is not eligible as we go through this unprecedented process. It may help to remember that eligible items must be related to emergency protective measures due to COVID. An item or service is not eligible if it is not related to emergency protective measures. Another good way to remember if something is not eligible is if the goods or services would be used in the course of normal operations. There are several examples of ineligible items. We will go through each one and explain why they are ineligible for FEMA reimbursement. By doing this, you will begin to understand the logic behind ineligibility. An example of an ineligible mask is the KN95 mask that GLWA uses for regular operations. The N95 and the surgical masks are eligible. Any standard cleaning supplies that would have been used before COVID are not eligible. These cleaning products were used in the course of normal operations. Soap, used in dispensers, is not eligible. This is also a product used in the course of normal operations. For the most part, new signage is not eligible. New directional entrance signs are not eligible. We are, however, requesting reimbursement for signage in our tents. This signage directs people for health screening. Our information technology group has had to purchase additional software to accommodate increased demand for those team members now working from home. The additional software purchases are not eligible because they are considered necessary for the continued operations of our utility. Office supplies are also considered not eligible for FEMA reimbursement. Office supplies are always required, whether a team member is working in their office or from home. All postage expenses are not eligible. For example, GLWA mail was sent to the water board building. That mail was then mailed to team members at home. The related postage is considered a part of regular operations and not related to the emergency measures. As noted earlier, all PCard purchases must have an accompanying receipt. We cannot request reimbursement without a receipt. Regular cleaning of facilities is not eligible. Once again, facility cleaning would have been done before the COVID emergency. Disinfecting the facilities to assist in protecting the health and safety of our team members is eligible. Finally, the GLWA procurement policy must be followed with all purchases. Note that FEMA has been provided a copy of our procurement policy and they may ask if it was followed. A link to the procurement policy can be found in the comment area below the video. If you are not sure if a service or product is eligible for FEMA reimbursement, always err on the side of eligibility. However, Dana Bearer welcomes eligibility questions. She is GLWA's Manager of Special Projects in Financial Services, and works directly with representatives from FEMA and the Michigan State Police Homeland Security Division. In addition, GLWA's Financial Services area works together to ensure that GLWA receives our fair share of FEMA reimbursements. Dana's phone number is 313-400-4135 and her email address is dana.bearer-casanelli@glwater.org. Thank you for participating in this presentation outlining the FEMA reimbursement process for GLWA. Because of your diligent efforts, GLWA will continue to request our fair share of COVID-related funding. If you want to download a copy of this presentation, a link is provided in the comment area below this video. We welcome your comments and questions. Have a great day and be safe.